Hello. Well, in this week's news wrap-up, the U.S. Appeals Court sided with Trump, clearing the way to fire thousands of federal workers. This is your end-of-the-week wrap-up with Brett on the go at Retirement Today. Well, the Sunday wrap-up. Retirement, is on the line for federal employees, and it just is, the whole week has been surprising about Iron Mountain, about all the arguments, about all the retirees, and it's not really retirees, excuse me, let me back up. Let's talk about terminating everybody in the federal government system that's over 50 years old. We uncovered a storm of series that make one thing crystal clear. Your retirement isn't about your savings. It's about the systems, the policies, and the priorities. So let's break it down to what we found out this week. We kicked off the week with a personal story that's become far too common. A federal worker just let go after turning 50, decided to turn that shock into purpose. We broke down how many Americans are facing the same cliff, and the takeaway: reinvention is no longer a choice. It's the retirement plan, because to be honest with you, at 50 years old, if you think about it, you're going to live hopefully into your 90s. That gives you 30 years. And what are you going to do with 30 years? You're not going to sit in a rocking chair. So then came the eye-opener that millions of federal retirement records still processed on paper. And the thing that I didn't mention the other day in the newscast was the actual real numbers. And I have to say, this is going to shock you, because 400 million records are in Iron Mountain. Not 5, 10,000, not since, the 60s, 70s. They're there, they're current, and it's today. 400 million federal employee records. If that's not enough to shock you on your own, I don't know what else you need this week. We showed you the real photos, we explained the delays, and we asked, how did you get here, or how did we get here? If your retirement depends on a folder in a cave, we've got bigger problems, and that's for sure. Let's talk back about, let's refresh the Iron Mountain story that led us deeper into the mountain facility. The mountain facility is 300,000 square feet, where 400 million retirement documents sit in the cabinets. And those cabinets stacked 10 high underground. No AI, no cloud, just cabinets. And every day they shuttle through those caverns trying to find your documents. Imagine if unintentionally someone misfiled your alphabetical document. Having a bad day, got up, didn't have their coffee, and, misplaced your document. There's no AI. There's no cloud, there's no backup. And your future is buried in it. This is what happens when the digital revolution skips the government requirements. And a lot of people seem to think, and a lot of comments across the board have said, well, from a federal employee standpoint, that the government never really had funding for it. Well, that is absolutely not true. The Senate Appropriation Committee supplied funding for the federal government to digitize those records over 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they said it's time to clean up our records. Well, and then we, sort of close out the last shocker of the week. The U.S. Court of Appeals just sided with Trump in a massive federal worker case. If this ruling stands, it gives the executive branch power to fire thousands of federal employees at will. This could reshape the federal workforce and hit older workers the hardest. And my question is, Who's going to digitize those records when they fire all the employees? Because that's not an AI job. That's not a job in the cloud. That's a job that's going to have to be handled physically by workers. You know, the translation for this? Your job security and your retirement track just got a whole lot shakier. And when I mean shakier, well, you think Georgia is terrible for their 2-year filing requirement. Well, this is going to go completely across the United States. If you're a federal worker and you apply for benefits, it could take easily 2 years for you to get a decision. And that is utterly, absolutely ridiculous. You know, the real question this raises, let me hit you with some truth. How secure is retirement when job protections vanish overnight? Welcome to the federal government. Are federal careers still a stable path for Americans nearing 50? I don't think so. And if we don't modernize systems like OPM, and for those of you who missed the last episode, OPM is the Document Storage Facility Management Company. How will we track anything fairly or fast enough to get people their deserved benefits? Well, what does this mean for you? If you're still working, whether you're 45 or 65, you need to start with number one, you. You need to document everything. You need to log on to your Social Security account. You need to digitize your records. You need to request your records. And I'm going to give you another shocking fact here. When you request your records, it takes a minimum of 2 years as a federal employee to get a copy of your records. If that's not BS, I don't know what is. And if you get it in 2 years, that's considered to be a miracle because, you know, the guy on the golf carts got to go get the hand truck, got to go pull the filing cabinet, got to bring it to OPM, and OPM's got to figure out, you know, oh, let me scan this document and send it to you. Clearly, they don't have scanners. So the system's not coming to save you, but your skill set, mindset, and community just might. You know, we're just getting started. This is why Retirement Today exists. To shine a light on the systems behind your future and give you the power in the process. Remember, you are the business, your life is the story, your passion is the product. So make it count. I'm Brett. Thanks for spending this week with us in the news. Join us Monday. We've got something powerful coming to kick off next week's coverage. Brett on the go for Retirement Today.